Chapter 2 Army Aviation Organizations and Command and Control. Section I Operational Framework. Army aviation formations are organized, trained and equipped to support the Combined Arms Team at the tactical and operational levels. The Army Aviation Modified Table of Organization and Equipment, known as MTOE, force structure consists of 4 types of brigade-level aviation maneuver organizations and 2 types of enabling group-level organizations. Brigade-level aviation maneuver organizations include the Combat Aviation Brigade, or CAB, Expeditionary Combat Aviation Brigade, or ETA, Theater, Aviation Brigade for Assault, known as TABA, and Theater, Aviation Brigade for General Support, known as TABGS. The enabling group-level aviation organizations provide the necessary support and sustainment operations to ensure the aviation maneuver brigades are capable of completing their missions. These organizations include the Theater Airfield Operations Group, or TAOG, and the Theater Aviation Sustainment Maintenance Group, or TASMG. The battalion and squadron-level organizations of Army Aviation consist of the Air Cavalry Squadron, or ACS, Attack Battalion, or AB, Assault Helicopter Battalion, or AHB, General Support Aviation Battalion, or GSAB, Aviation Support Battalion, or ASB, Security and Support Battalion, or SSB, and Airfield Operations Battalion, or AOB. Although the above organizations are multifunctional, given the complexity of the operational environment and mission variable requirements, aviation brigades and battalions are usually further task organized to meet the requirements of an assigned mission. Task organization is routinely multi-component and can include any combination of platoons, companies, and battalions organized under the Aviation Brigade, Aviation Squadron Task Force, known as ASTF, or Aviation Battalion Task Force, known as ABTF, headquarters. Aviation brigades and squadrons or battalions can also be task organized with ground maneuver, joint aviation, and other non-aviation joint and Army units. Section I Aviation Brigade. This section provides details of the organization and capabilities of aviation brigades. The 3 brigade-size formations in Army Aviation are the CAB, XAAB, and Theater Aviation Brigade, or TAB. The core competencies of the Combat Aviation Brigade, or CAB, are to provide accurate and timely information collection, provide reaction time and maneuver space, destroy, defeat, disrupt, or delay enemy forces, air assault maneuver forces, position personnel, supplies and equipment, evacuate casualties, and conduct personnel recovery, and enable command and control, or C2, in support of the Combined Arms Team. The CAB is organized to synchronize operations of multiple aviation squadrons or battalions, Aviation Squadron Task Forces or Aviation Battalion Task Forces, ground maneuver battalions or companies, and joint aviation units. The CAB is an active duty or Army National Guard organization. The CAB consists of a Headquarters and Headquarters Company, or HHC, Air Cavalry Squadron, Attack Battalion, Assault Helicopter Battalion, General Support Aviation Battalion, a Grey Eagle Company equipped with 12 MQ, Onyx unmanned aircraft, and an Aviation Support Battalion. The CAB is designed to be modular and tailorable, and may be task organized as required to support offensive, defensive, stability, or defense support of civil authorities, known as DSCA operations. The CAB is designed to operate as 4 aviation maneuver battalions or battalion or squadron task forces and 1 aviation support battalion based on mission variables. The CAB receives up to 2 additional aviation battalions or squadrons or task forces without staff augmentation, but requires additional maintenance personnel and equipment. The CAB performs the following mission tasks: movement to contact, attack, reconnaissance, security, air assault, aerial command and control, air movement, aeromedical evacuation, aerial casualty evacuation, personnel recovery, and aerial delivered mine operations. The Grey Eagle Company is organic to the CAB and is dependent on the attack battalion for staff planning, integration, and coordination in joint and combined arms operations. It provides dedicated multi-mission tactical unmanned aircraft system capability to divisional brigades according to the division commander's priorities. When operating as a division asset, the Gray Eagle Company conducts surveillance, zone, route, and area reconnaissance attack, battle damage assessment, and command and control support. When tasked by the division to support the CAB, the Gray Eagle Company maneuvers independently or with AH-64s from the attack battalion or air cavalry squadron, using manned-unmanned teaming known as MUMT. MUMT significantly enhances the survivability, depth, breadth, and persistence of the reconnaissance effort and increases lethality by locating and attacking enemy forces with autonomous or remote fires. When supporting the CAB, the Gray Eagle Company or subordinate elements conduct zone, route, and area reconnaissance, attack, battle damage assessment, and command and control support. A CAB may be required to support the Corps or theater level headquarters in immature theaters until the arrival of the Theater Aviation Brigade and other assets, or to fill gaps in Theater Aviation Brigade capabilities. Theater aviation brigades are typically comprised of Army National Guard and Reserve units that may require a period of mobilization. In the interim, a CAB may be tasked to fulfill the role of higher echelon support. Task mission sets may vary but likely include shaping, theater establishment, and sustainment operations. Tasks include air movement of personnel and equipment from the port of entry to the support and consolidation areas, movement of sustainment supplies and repair parts to ensure continuous operations and building of combat power, battlefield circulation for key leaders, aerial evacuation, air assaults, security, reconnaissance, and offensive operations for shaping. Some higher echelon tasks may be in direct support of the theater or corps, while others may shape lower echelon operations. These CAB missions may continue until the Theater Aviation Brigade or other assets arrive in theater to complete handover and provide support. The CAB may also be expected to conduct simultaneous mission planning and balance of battle rhythm events with its parent headquarters while providing higher echelon support or fulfilling the role as a Theater Aviation Brigade. Commander-to-commander dialogue is vital to ensure assets are not spread too thin, nor reach early culmination while supporting the division and higher echelons simultaneously. The core competencies of the Expeditionary Combat Aviation Brigade, or ECAB, are to air assault maneuver forces, position personnel, supplies, and equipment, evacuate casualties and conduct personnel recovery, and enable command and control in support of the combined arms team. When task organized with an attack battalion or air cavalry squadron, ECABs also provide accurate and timely information collection, provide reaction time and maneuver space, and destroy, defeat, disrupt, or delay enemy forces. The ECAB is an Army National Guard or United States Army Reserve organization. The ECAB consists of a headquarters and headquarters company, 2 assault helicopter battalions, a general support aviation battalion, and an aviation support battalion. The ECAB is designed to be modular and tailorable, and is typically task-organized as required to support offensive, defensive, and stability operations in support of ground maneuver forces or during DSCA. The ECAB is designed to split into 3 maneuver battalions or battalion task forces and 1 aviation support battalion based on mission variables. The ECAB receives up to 2 additional aviation squadron task forces or aviation battalion task forces without staff augmentation, but requires additional maintenance personnel and equipment. The ECAB performs the following tasks: air assault, aerial command and control, air movement, aeromedical evacuation, aerial casualty evacuation, personnel recovery, and aerial delivered mine operations. When the ECAB is augmented with attack or reconnaissance units, its capabilities are increased. Appropriate training time, staff maintenance, and logistics support are critical in the development of these capabilities prior to conducting operations. When augmented, The ECAB may perform the following additional tasks: movement to contact, attack, reconnaissance, and security. The Theater Aviation Brigade for General Support, known as TABGS, provides accurate and timely reconnaissance, positions personnel, supplies, and equipment, evacuates casualties, conducts search and rescue, and enables command and control during DSC operations. The TABGS is an Army National Guard or United States Army Reserve organization. The Theater Aviation Brigade for Assault, known as TABA, augments other aviation brigades, or operates autonomously at the theater level to air assault maneuver forces, position personnel, supplies, and equipment, evacuate casualties, and conduct personnel recovery, and enable command and control. The TABA is an Army National Guard organization. The TABGS includes a headquarters and headquarters company, 6 security and support battalions, and a non-standard general support aviation battalion. The TABA includes a headquarters and headquarters company, 4 general support aviation battalions, and 1 aviation support battalion. Although the TABGS headquarters with the General Support Aviation Battalion and the Aviation Support Battalion has the capability of deploying in support of global operations, the TABGS is a Northern Command asset and typically operates in decentralized elements from the team to battalion level conducting DSC. The TABGS conducts the following tasks: permissive zone, route, and area reconnaissance, air movement, aeromedical evacuation, aerial casualty evacuation, search and rescue, and aerial command and control. The TAB is a deployable operational level organization that typically reinforces other aviation commands with subordinate battalions and companies or provides theater support autonomously. The TAB may also be task organized with other aviation units to accomplish other traditional CAB or EKAB missions and core competencies, but requires command and control, staff and maintenance augmentation. The TAB conducts the following tasks: air assault, air movement, aeromedical evacuation, aerial casualty evacuation, aerial command and control, and personnel recovery. When the TABA is augmented with attack or reconnaissance units, its capabilities are increased. Appropriate training time, staff maintenance, and logistics support are critical in the development of these capabilities prior to conducting operations. When augmented, the TAB may perform the following additional tasks: movement to contact, attack, reconnaissance, and security. Section III, Enabling Aviation Groups. This section provides details of the organization and capabilities of enabling aviation groups. The 2 groups in Army Aviation are the Theater Airfield Operations Group, or TAOG, and the Theater Aviation Sustainment Maintenance Group, or TASMG. The TAOG provides airfield and air traffic services support to the Combined Arms Team. The TAOG, when deployed with Airfield Operations Battalions, conducts airfield management operations, provides local airspace control for the area of operations in a joint environment, and provides oversight, sustainment, and maintenance support to the Theater Air Traffic Services assets. The TAOG is an active duty or Army National Guard organization. The TAOG consists of a headquarters and headquarters company, and up to 3 airfield operations battalions. The TAOG and its subordinate air traffic services organizations are an enabling component of the modular, scalable, and tailored Army Aviation Force and can support forcible and early entry contingency missions, as well as sustained theater aviation operations. Air traffic operations are conducted overseas within contiguous and non-contiguous areas, throughout the range of military operations. The air traffic services organizations support DSCA missions in response to natural or man-made disasters, accidents, and incidents within the United States and its territories. The TAOG, the Airfield Operations Battalion, and the Sub-Element Air Traffic Services units are optimized for theater aviation support and deploy in total or are task organized by teams based on operational requirements. The TAOG is organized and equipped to facilitate early deployment by establishing expeditionary airfields in support of Army, joint, and multinational operations. The TAOG supports reception, staging, onward movement, and integration requirements for aviation assets, arriving in the operations area to include operation of heliports and helipads at seaports and aerial ports of debarkation. The Air Traffic Services Standardization Element is a unique organizational design of the TAO. This element provides oversight, technical expertise, standardization to Army airfields at theater level, and quality assurance for training and certification of controllers and air traffic services maintenance personnel. It develops airspace for restricted areas, transition areas, and control zones. The Air Traffic Services Standardization Element serves as the primary staff coordinator for air traffic services matters within the theater area. The element is capable of splitting into 2 teams for modularity and support of 5 airfield operations battalions employed across a wide geographical area throughout the theater. The TASMG is resourced to provide aviation sustainment maintenance and limited depot sustainment support at the theater level. The TASMG performs repairs and returns components or end items to their supported units or the supply system through the National Maintenance Program. The TASMG is an Army National Guard organization. The TASMG consists of a headquarters and headquarters detachment, an aviation support company, and a group support company. When deployed, the TASMG is attached to the Joint Force Sustainment Headquarters or Expeditionary Support Command, and sets up at a secure location within an area of operations. It establishes and provides 24-hour fixed base aviation field and sustainment maintenance, logistics, and other essential aviation sustainment support to aviation units. The TASMG performs field maintenance, depot-level crash and battle damage repair, and sustainment or depot-level repair of major end items. It also performs sustainment-level maintenance for aircraft and aviation ground support equipment at fixed land or sea-based locations. The TASMG assists deploying aviation operational units with port operations. Section IV, Aviation Battalions and Squadrons. This section provides details of the organization and capabilities of the aviation battalions and squadrons. As an element of the CAB, the Air Cavalry Squadron, or ACS, provides accurate and timely information collection, provides reaction time and maneuver space, and destroys, defeats, delays, diverts, or disrupts enemy forces in support of the Combined Arms Team. Although the ACS is fully capable of conducting attacks, the integration of RQ-7B, Unmanned Aircraft System at the troop level makes the ACS the best formation for conducting reconnaissance, security, and movement to contact as primary missions, with attack operations as a secondary mission. The ACS typically employs its aircraft in formations as small as scout weapons teams of 2 aircraft to as large as troop or squadron formations. The ACS is an active duty organization. The ACS consists of a headquarters and headquarters troop, 3 air cavalry troops equipped with 8 AH-64s and 4 RQ-7B Shadow unmanned aircraft each, an aviation maintenance troop, and a forward support troop. The ACS conducts zone, route, and area reconnaissance, reconnaissance in force when task organized, screen guard, and area security when task organized, movement to contact, and attack. As an element of the CAB, the Attack Battalion, or AB, provides accurate and timely information collection, provides reaction time and maneuver space, and destroys, defeats, delays, defeats, delays, diverts, or disrupts enemy forces in support of the Combined Arms Team. Although the AB is fully capable of conducting reconnaissance, security, and movement to contact operations, it has less overall reconnaissance capability than the ACS due to the lack of organic unmanned aircraft system at the company level. unless the Grey Eagle Company is released partially or in total from division control to conduct dedicated man-and-man teaming in support of the AB. The AB typically employs its aircraft in formations as small as attack weapons teams of 2 aircraft to as large as company or battalion formations. The AB is an active duty and Army National Guard organization. The AB also provides staff planning, integration, and coordination for joint and combined arms operations for the Grey Eagle Unmanned Aircraft System Company. The AB consists of a headquarters and headquarters company, 3 attack companies equipped with 8 AH-64s each, an aviation maintenance company, and a forward support company. The AB conducts attack zone route and area reconnaissance, screen, guard, and area security when task organized, movement to contact, and reconnaissance in force when task organized. As a subordinate element of the CAB and ECAB, the Assault Helicopter Battalion, or AHB, Air Assault Maneuver Forces, positions personnel, supplies, and equipment, conducts casualty evacuation, conducts personnel recovery, and enables command and control in support of the Combined Arms Team. The AHB is an active duty Army National Guard and United States Army Reserve organization. The AHB consists of a headquarters and headquarters company, 3 assault helicopter companies of 10 UH-60s each, an aviation maintenance company, and a forward support company. The AHB conducts air assault, air movement, aerial casualty evacuation, aerial command and control, personnel recovery, reconnaissance, and aerial delivered mine operations. The General Support Aviation Battalion, or GSAB, is a subordinate element of the CAB, EKAB, and Theater Aviation Brigade. The GSAB Air Assault Maneuver Forces positions personnel, supplies, and equipment, evacuates casualties, conducts personnel recovery, and enables command and control in support of the Combined Arms Team. The GSAB is an active duty Army National Guard and United States Army Reserve organization. The GSAB in the CAB and Theater Aviation Brigade for Assault consists of a headquarters and headquarters company, a command aviation company of 8 UH-60s, a heavy lift company with 12 CH-47s, an air ambulance company of 15 H-60s, an aviation maintenance company, a forward support company, and an air traffic services company. The GSAB in the ECAB consists of a headquarters and headquarters company, a command aviation company of 8 UH-60s, a heavy lift company with 12 CH-47s, 2 air ambulance companies of 15 HH-60s each, an aviation maintenance company, a forward support company, and an air traffic services company. The GSAB in the Theater Aviation Brigade for general support consists of a headquarters and headquarters company, a command aviation company of 8 UH-60s, 2 heavy lift companies with 12 CH-47s each, an air ambulance company of 15 H-companies, an aviation maintenance company, and a forward support company. The GSAB conducts air movement, aerial forward arming and refueling point support, air assault, personnel recovery, aerial command and control, aeromedical evacuation, aerial casualty evacuation, and air traffic services. The Aviation Support Battalion, or ASB, is an element of the CAB, ex-CAB, and Theater Aviation Brigade. It provides aviation and ground field maintenance, network communications resupply, and medical support. The ASB provides maintenance augmentation to aviation battalions when required. The ASB is an active-duty Army National Guard and United States Army Reserve organization. The ASB consists of a headquarters and headquarters company, a distribution company, an aviation support company, and a network support company. The ASB performs ground vehicle and aviation maintenance and recovery operations, signal and network support to the CAB for command and control, conducts sustainment as a warfighting function for the CAB, when functioning as an organic CAB, provides deployment support to the CAB during embarkation and debarkation, distribution management operations within the Aviation Brigade, and Role 1 Army Health Service support for the Aviation Brigade. The Security and Support Battalion, or SSB, is an element of the Theater Aviation Brigade for general support. It is a multi-purpose aviation unit that supports a variety of federal and state missions in permissive environments by providing accurate and timely reconnaissance information, positioning personnel, supplies, and equipment, evacuating casualties, search and rescue, and enabling command and control in DSCA operations. The SSB is an Army National Guard organization. The SSB consists of a headquarters and headquarters company, 3 security and support companies of 8 UH-72s, and an air ambulance company of 8 UH-72s. The SSB provides a geographically dispersed, readily available, light utility aviation capability for federal or state authorities and combatant commanders. It primarily supports homeland security or defense, but can also deploy and operate worldwide in permissive environments. The SSB is capable of operating as a separate battalion, an aviation battalion task force, or task organizing into company or platoon elements to support assigned missions. The SSB conducts the following tasks in permissive environments only: air movement, reconnaissance, and observation in support of counter-narcotic, drug interdiction, and law enforcement agencies. Aerial observation of terrain or man-made features. Aeromedical evacuation, aerial casualty evacuations, and civil search and rescue operations. The Airfield Operations Battalion, or AOB, provides airfield management including airfield operations, flight dispatch services, and air traffic services. The AOB is an active duty and Army National Guard organization. The AOB consists of a headquarters element, an airfield management element, and an air traffic services company. The AOB is capable of deploying to expeditionary or mature theaters to conduct airfield management and air traffic services. The AOB may relieve CAB air traffic services companies in place to allow CAB to reposition forward during offensive operations or during sustained operations when additional airfields are required in the theater. The AOB conducts air traffic services and airfield management. The Theater Fixed Wing Battalion provides long-range air movement for inter-theater, intra-theater, and garrison operations. The Theater Fixed Wing Battalion is an Army National Guard and United States Army Reserve organization. The Theater Fixed Wing Battalion consists of a headquarters and headquarters company and 3 theater aviation companies. One of the theater aviation companies consists of 8 C-12s, while the other 2 differ based on whether they are Army National Guard or United States Army Reserve. The United States Army Reserve Theater Aviation Companies consist of 4 C-12s and 4 UC-35s, while the Army National Guard companies consist of 8 C-12s. The Theater Fixed Wing Battalion is designed to operate as a separate battalion, an aviation battalion task force, or task organize into company or platoon elements to support assigned missions. The Theater Fixed Wing Battalion conducts air movement, aerial command and control support, and aerial casualty evacuation. Section 5. Aviation Squadron or Battalion Task Forces. Army Aviation is a modular force that may task organize as a mission-tailored aviation squadron task force or aviation battalion task force to conduct operations. This task organization may be operational control or attached to cover the length of an operation or deployment. The configuration of the Aviation Squadron Task Force or Aviation Battalion Task Force varies widely and is driven by mission variables. In general, an Aviation Squadron Task Force or Aviation Battalion Task Force consists of an aviation squadron or battalion headquarters, troop or company, with its organic aviation maintenance troop or company, typically augmented, and forward support troop or company, and 2 to 5 organic and non-organic aviation maneuver companies and/or platoons. Based on the requirements of the mission, the aviation maneuver companies, troops, and platoons are typically a tailored mix of attack, reconnaissance, assault, heavy lift, unmanned aircraft system, and medical evacuation assets. An aviation battalion task force that supports an infantry unit, Conducting frequent air assaults requires more assault and heavy lift aircraft than an aviation battalion task force with other mission requirements. An aviation squadron task force or aviation battalion task force that supports an armor unit tasked with a covering force mission typically requires more attack aircraft. During semi-permanent task organization, the mix of aviation maneuver troops or companies and platoons, and specific numbers and types of aircraft, is tailored to meet the predominant numbers and types of missions required for the supported unit. When task organized as an aviation squadron task force or aviation battalion task force to accomplish one mission, the aviation squadron task force or aviation battalion task force is specifically tailored for the mission. Regardless of whether the task organization is operational control or attached, maintenance and possibly staff, personnel and equipment augmentation is required from another aviation maneuver squadron or battalion that detaches the troop, company, or platoon to the aviation squadron task force or aviation battalion task force. The Aviation Support Battalion may also provide additional maintenance and sustainment equipment and personnel based on the mission variables. An example of an aviation squadron task force is one built on an air cavalry squadron headquarters, aviation maintenance troop, augmented for task force aircraft, and forward support troop with 2 organic air cavalry troops, an attached assault helicopter company, and forward support medical evacuation platoon. This depicted aviation squadron task force is capable of conducting sustained reconnaissance, security, movement to contact, medical evacuation, attack, air movements, or air assault. Another example is an attack-heavy aviation battalion task force. The foundation of the aviation battalion task force is built on an attack battalion headquarters and headquarters company, aviation maintenance company augmented for task force aircraft, forward support company, 2 organic attack companies, an attached Grey Eagle platoon, 1 assault helicopter company, and 1 forward support medical evacuation platoon. The depicted aviation battalion task force is capable of conducting attack, movement to contact, medical evacuation, reconnaissance, security operations, air movements, or air assaults. An example of an assault-heavy aviation battalion task force is one built on an assault helicopter battalion headquarters and headquarters company aviation, maintenance company aviation maintenance company, augmented for task force aircraft, a forward support company, 2 organic assault helicopter company, an attached attack company, 1 Grey Eagle platoon, a heavy lift platoon, and a forward support medical evacuation platoon. The depicted aviation battalion task force is capable of conducting greater than a company-sized air assault or air movement, medical evacuation and limited duration reconnaissance, security, and attack operations. Section 5I. Command and Support Relationships. Commanders build combined arms organizations using command and support relationships. Command relationships define command responsibility and authority. Support relationships define the purpose, scope, and effect desired when one capability supports another. Properly established command and support relationships are critical to effective Army aviation operations. During large-scale combat operations, commanders must evaluate appropriate command or support relationships for each subordinate echelon during each phase of an operation. These reviews properly enable Army aviation operations through all phases of the operation and best equip subordinate units to accomplish the commander's intent. Operations orders placing units under command of a different headquarters for any length of time must include a detailed summary of the relationship between the unit, its new headquarters, and its parent unit. Typically, the smallest element Army Aviation detaches is a company-sized element with the exception of air ambulance units, which typically operate at the platoon level. However, elements as small as platoons, teams, and even individual aircraft may be cross-attached from one aviation formation to another. Command relationships specify superior and subordinate headquarters responsibilities. The type of command relationship selected corresponds to the duration of the mission, and it serves to clarify duties of gaining and losing headquarters. Organic forces form an essential part of a military organization as a part of its design. A CAB has 5 battalions plus a headquarters company organic to it. If, for example, the attack battalion is task organized under a brigade combat team headquarters for a temporary mission, it would return to the control of the CAB upon completion. Subordinates are assigned in order to place units or personnel in an organization where such placement is relatively permanent, and/or where such organization controls or administers the unit or personnel for the primary functions of the unit. Due to sustainment, standardization, and safety requirements, aviation battalions or aviation squadron task forces or aviation battalion task forces typically remain assigned to their parent CAB. This relationship includes administrative control unless specifically stated otherwise. Subordinates are attached when the placement of units or personnel in an organization is relatively temporary. The commander of the unit that receives the attachment is responsible for the sustainment and logistical support that is beyond the capability of the attached unit. An example of this relationship is an aviation maneuver company attached to a sister aviation battalion to form an aviation squadron task force or aviation battalion task force. The gaining headquarters normally assumes administrative control requirements, particularly sustainment unless stated otherwise. Operational control is a command relationship that gives a commander authority over subordinate forces to organize and employ those forces, designate objectives, assign tasks, and give direction regarding accomplishment of the mission. The commander exercising operational control authority has no responsibility for logistical sustainment of the supporting unit. A CAB may place an aviation battalion task force or company-sized unit operational control to a ground force for a specific mission requirement, usually of limited and short duration, where no enduring sustainment is required. Tactical control is a command relationship that gives a commander authority over assigned or attached forces or commands, or military capability or forces made available for tasking, which is limited to and is usually local direction and control of movements or maneuvers necessary to accomplish assigned missions. Notably, only the parent unit may further task organize a unit that has been assigned tactical control to another headquarters. The CAB frequently employs tactical control during stability operations for short-duration operations, requiring a high degree of Army aviation operations, such as area security or air assaults. Support relationships are direct support and general support. The aviation brigade or an aviation battalion task force may employ utility and heavy lift assets in a general support role to conduct aerial sustainment by the movement of personnel and equipment, or air ambulance assets when area coverage of multiple units and areas of operations is required. An aviation battalion task force is traditionally employed as direct support to a brigade or higher headquarters. Direct support is a support relationship requiring a force to support another specific force, and authorizing it to answer directly to the supported force's request for assistance. Army aviation units may operate in a direct support relationship, allowing operations to be coordinated directly with the supported ground unit, expediting synchronization and improving the effectiveness of the relationship. Direct support is typically the relationship established when an aviation battalion task force is supporting a brigade or higher headquarters for an extended duration. This enables the CAB to effectively sustain the aviation battalion task force and maintain the appropriate levels of safety, standardization, and mission oversight. General support is support that is given to the supported force as a whole and not to any particular subdivision thereof. Army aviation units may be placed in general support of several units. They receive general support missions from their parent headquarters based upon support priorities established by the higher commander. When Army aviation units operate in a general support role, the ground maneuver unit must request support from the parent higher headquarters of the aviation force. Section 5 Aviation Command Posts. Aviation units typically operate from a main command post and a tactical command post while conducting operations. Throughout planning, preparation, and execution, it is crucially important that commanders and staffs consider the survivability of each of these command and control nodes. The main command post is a facility containing the majority of the staff designed to control current operations, conduct detailed analysis, and plan future operations. It contains the necessary enablers to execute the operations process and to control current operations. The main command post is the primary command and control structure for the brigade and battalion. Its primary missions are to control operations, maintain situational understanding, inform the commander's decisions, and prepare and publish orders and plans. It also provides detailed analysis, planning, and coordination for the tactical command post. The commander operates from the main command post when not operating from the tactical command post, command vehicle, or an aircraft. However, when the commander operates from a forward position, the unit executive officer or deputy commander leads operations in the main command post. The main command post's primary functions include communicating and informing subordinate, higher, and adjacent units, informing and assisting the commander and subordinate commanders, preparing and issuing fragmentary orders, operational plans, intelligence summaries, intelligence reports, operating on a 24-hour basis. Conducting future planning continuously, maintaining running estimates continuously, maintaining situational understanding and a common operational picture across the Army warfighting functions, receiving, evaluating, and processing combat information from subordinate units and higher headquarters, maintaining the necessary products to further the commander's situational understanding. Processing information into intelligence, performing limited video exploitation or Phase 1 processing, exploitation and dissemination for unmanned aircraft system and AH-64 sensor data, conducting fire support planning, conducting airspace control planning, and coordinating terrain management. Coordinating and tracking sustainment requirements such as logistics, air and ground maintenance capabilities and status, making recommendations to the commander. Planning and orchestrating briefings, debriefings and rehearsals, coordinating with the Division Joint Air-Ground Integration Center in order to plan and execute air operations in division-assigned airspace. Providing a CAB liaison officer to the Joint Air-Ground Integration Center, and if assigned or attached to a tactical corps command post, providing liaison and coordinating directly with the integration centers within the Corps Current Operations Cell. The Tactical Command Post is a facility containing a tailored portion of a unit headquarters designed to control portions of an operation for a limited time. The Tactical Command Post is established to enhance command and control of current operations. It can be deployed to higher or subordinate headquarters to facilitate parallel planning, or when extended distances preclude operation from the command post. The Tactical Command Post must communicate with higher headquarters, adjacent units, employed subordinate units, and the main command post. The Tactical Command Post relies on the main command post for planning, detailed analysis, and coordination. The Tactical Command Post is fully mobile and small in size to facilitate security and frequent hasty displacement. Its organizational layout, personnel, and equipment is mission variable dependent and should be detailed in the unit's standard operating procedures. While the operations section is responsible for the Tactical Command Post, the Tactical Command Post is normally comprised of the command group and personnel from the intelligence, operations, and fire staff cells. Augmentation may include the Standardization Officer, Aviation, Mission Survivability Officer, Aviation Safety Officer, Aviation Liaison Officer, and the Personnel Staff Officer, and/or Logistics Staff Officer if the main command post is displacing. Command post survivability is crucial to the success of any mission. During large-scale combat operations, commanders may direct frequent relocations of command posts in order to prevent detection, ensure survivability, and remain postured to support ground maneuver forces. Depending on threat and operational tempo, commanders must tailor their command posts to consider a balance between effectiveness and survivability. Displays in reduced size, redundant systems and processes, and enhanced mobility all provide potential increases to command post survivability. Aviation command posts are faced with the challenge of requiring significant amounts of equipment and space to effectively conduct operations. Commanders and staffs must consider what equipment is absolutely mandatory to conduct effective operations, how each piece of equipment is moved, and what options may exist to minimize signature. Examples of minimizing signature include dispersed or camouflaged elements that are harder to detect, parking aircraft away from dusty areas to minimize their signature when taking off or landing, enforcing light discipline to make the command post harder to locate, and displacing frequently to make the unit harder to track. Section Fight II Aviation Brigade Special Staff. Aviation brigades have a variety of unique special staff to assist the commander and other staff members in performing their functional responsibilities. Below is a description of key personnel found in the brigade headquarters. For more information about aviation brigade staff positions, see the Force Management System website. The Aviation Safety Officer is the primary advisor to the commander and staff on all matters pertaining to aviation and ground safety. The Aviation Safety Officer monitors and conducts hazard analysis of plans, training, operations, and unit functional areas to advise commanders on recommended corrective actions, policies, objectives, and priorities to improve performance. This is a Chief Warrant Officer 5 position. The Aviation Standardization Officer is the primary advisor to the commander for the aircrew training program. The Standardization Officer is unique to aviation units in that they monitor and provide assistance to the commander in the development and implementation of aircrew training programs and standardized execution of unit mission essential tasks. This is a Chief Warrant Officer 5 position. The Unmanned Aircraft System Standardization Operator is a senior advisor to the brigade commander and command staff on all brigade unmanned aircraft system operations, personnel, and system statuses. This position requires a sergeant first-class position in the CAB, who is a qualified instructor operator and selected by the unit commander. The standardization operator is qualified and current in at least one of the unmanned aircraft systems assigned to the unit. The standardization operator provides technical supervision of the unmanned aircraft system program for the brigade, along with assisting the brigade standardization pilot with supervision and maintenance of the aircrew training program. The standardization operator provides oversight and updates for all assigned unmanned aircraft systems at all levels to the brigade commander and command staff. They administer training and evaluation in specified standardization operator duties as described in the Aircrew Training Module and Training Circular 3-4. 11. They are also responsible for providing guidance, mentorship, training, and evaluations to all assigned operators and instructor operators in the designated unmanned aircraft per approved aircrew training tasks. The standardization operator maintains the brigade's unmanned aircraft system standardization program and conducts inspections for assigned battalion, company, and troop unmanned aircraft system programs to include instructor-operator continuation training. Additional information can be found in Army Regulation 95-1 Unmanned Aircraft System Training Modules and associated training circulars. The Aviation Mission Survivability Officer is the primary advisor to the commander on the Aviation Mission Survivability Program. This program encompasses combat survivability and combat aviation mission analysis and planning. All combat survivability includes aircraft, survivability equipment and countermeasures, characterizing threat capabilities and limitations affecting the vertical scheme of maneuver, and the combat tactics, techniques, and procedures of aviation forces. This is a Chief Warrant Officer 5 position. Assigned to the CAB Tactical Command Post, the Aviation Master Gunner is the primary advisor to the commander for aircraft gunnery training programs, to include helicopter door gunnery and unmanned aircraft system gunnery. While deployed in theater, the Master Gunner manages helicopter gunnery training and sustainment and advises the commander and staff in the selection of weapons and employment techniques during the mission planning process. The Aviation Master Gunner is assigned to the CAB, as well as the Attack Battalion and Air Cavalry Squadron. At the CAB level, the Aviation Master Gunner is a Chief Warrant Officer for position. The Brigade Aviation Maintenance Officer, or BAMO, is the commander's primary advisor on generating aviation combat power. This is a Chief Warrant Officer 5 position. The flight surgeon advises the commander on all aviation medicine matters to include flight status qualification, support to air crews, medical aspects of aircrew training, and monitoring the fit and use of aviation life support equipment. This is a major position. The medical operations officer advises the commander and staff on medical evacuation operations. They are responsible for planning medical evacuation operations, maintaining liaison with the medical brigade and division patient movement cells, operating a medical evacuation control cell, and advising on aircraft and patient movements. This is a captain position. Section IX, Brigade Aviation Element. The Brigade Aviation Element, or BAE, is a planning and coordination cell organic to all brigade combat teams whose purpose is to incorporate aviation into the ground maneuver commander scheme of maneuver. The Brigade Aviation Element focuses on providing employment advice and initial planning for aviation missions, unmanned aircraft system, airspace planning and coordination, and synchronization with the Tactical Air Control Party and Fire Cell. The Brigade Aviation Element is comprised of the following aviation personnel: Brigade Aviation Officer, Assistant Brigade Aviation Officer, Aviation Mission Survivability Officer, Unmanned Aircraft System Officer, Operations Sergeant, Assistant Operations Sergeant, and Operations Specialist. The Brigade Aviation Element performs integration and synchronization of aviation into the supported unit scheme of maneuver with guidance from the CAB as necessary, employment planning advice for the employment of all manned and unmanned Army Aviation units designated to support the brigade combat team. Tracking of the status of aviation assets in support of the brigade combat team, direct coordination with CAB and aviation task forces, close integration and synchronization with liaison officers, airspace control planning and execution, and enabling command and control of current operations. Section X, Aviation Liaisons. An LNO or liaison team represents the supporting CAB or Aviation Squadron Task Force or Aviation Battalion Task Force at the supported maneuver headquarters to conduct detailed planning and unit-to-unit coordination for the duration of specific operation. LOS facilitate coordination for operations with higher headquarters and/or supported ground maneuver units. Although a brigade aviation element conducts many of the functions traditionally performed by an LNO, the aviation LNO remains a critical part of the operations process and execution of Army aviation operations. ECAB and Theater Aviation Brigade headquarters each contain an aviation LNO position, but cabs do not contain this position by MTOE. Aviation battalions typically contain a two-person LNO element to represent their units as directed to facilitate planning and execution of Army aviation operations. LONOs participate in the supported unit's operations process and ensure aviation is effectively integrated into planning. LONOs ensure supportability of courses of action and relay a clear task and purpose to the parent aviation unit. Unit commanders empower LONOs to act on their behalf and ensure liaison teams are fully resourced. LONOs maintain positive two-way communications with their parent aviation unit and do not commit assets or approve changes to a plan without coordinating with the unit operations officer or commander. LONOs understand and incorporate capabilities, limitations, and tactical employment of aviation assets, assist in the preparation of aviation estimates, plans, orders, and reports, assist in planning aviation missions, coordinate with airspace users and the higher airspace element for airspace management, maintain the operational status of aviation assets and their impacts on the supported unit's mission, inform appropriate aviation units of current and possible future operations, and maintain continuous communications with aviation units supporting the ground unit. In general, the CAB sends a battalion-level LNO team to a supported ground maneuver battalion, since ground maneuver battalions do not possess a brigade aviation element expert at that level. The LNO team should have commissioned or warrant officers with operational experience in the employment of aviation assets for all 7 aviation core competencies. Their employment is temporary and mission-specific since LNO team members perform other functions within the Aviation Squadron Task Force or Aviation Battalion Task Force or CAB staffs. LOs have access to current battalion status information to provide the most accurate common operational picture of aviation capabilities. LANOs or liaison teams should be equipped and manned to support 24-hour operations. Minimum equipment includes compatible automation equipment to provide connectivity between the supported unit and the aviation battalion headquarters, necessary vehicles and equipment required to operate on the move, 2 single-channel ground and airborne radio systems, and supporting antennas or equipment to monitor command nets and communicate with aviation units. Map of the area of operations with supporting battle tracking tools and equipment, and appropriate field manuals, Army training publications, training circulars, standard operating procedures, charts, and checklists to assist in aviation planning and integration. Section M. Aviation. Airspace control is an additional task of the command and control warfighting function. It is a continually refined activity within the operations process. Each operational area has specific requirements for airspace control. If or when assigned responsibility for a volume of airspace, maneuver commanders exercise airspace control within their assigned areas of operations through the integration of positive and procedural airspace control. Airspace elements provide airspace control expertise in planning efforts with a focus on enabling the commander flexibility while reducing risk. Commanders must ensure detailed planning and coordination with next higher airspace element in order to integrate their aircraft, manned and unmanned, requirements into the airspace control plan and airspace control order. When maneuvering, Army Aviation rotary wing assets normally operate below the coordination level using airspace coordination areas or phase lines supporting an operation. Aviation units avoid using restricted operation zones when possible in order to permit other nearby operations to continue simultaneously. Unmanned aircraft system assets normally operate above the coordination level using an air route, airspace coordination area, restricted operation zone, or kill box. A kill box is a 3-dimensional permissive fire support coordination measure with an associated airspace coordinating measure used to facilitate the integration of fires. When a division is assigned a volume of airspace, that division's Joint Air-Ground Integration Center and subordinate brigades air defense, airspace management, and brigade aviation element integrate manned and unmanned Army aircraft using enhanced procedural control, a combination of prescribed airspace coordination measures and voice and digital advisories that ensure integration and simultaneity of effect. The Joint Air-Ground Integration Center's enhanced procedural control complements the mission orders aviators and unmanned aircraft system operators receive from their respective maneuver command posts. When manned or unmanned Army aircraft operate in division airspace without a subordinate brigade area of operations assignment, such as ahead of a forward boundary, the Joint Air-Ground Integration Center provides enhanced procedural control using appropriate coordination measures, and command and control system. Airspace elements continuously monitor all airspace users to support their operations and those transiting through the airspace over their areas of operations. This continuous situational awareness ensures that commanders can react to any situation requiring immediate use of airspace, to include unplanned aircraft launch, aerial delivery of fires, immediate airspace coordination measures, and indirect fire mission. When conducting the manned-unmanned teaming tactics, techniques, and procedures, unmanned aircraft system extended endurance and unique launch or recovery requirements may require attack weapons teams to link up in flight. Once linked up, the attack weapons team air mission commander assumes responsibility for the maneuvering of the unmanned aircraft system and directing the unmanned aircraft system crew's tactical focus. The unmanned aircraft system aircraft commander is still responsible for coordinating their movement with the appropriate airspace element. Coordination between unmanned aircraft system and attack weapons team aircrews to determine scheme of maneuver, engagement area development, frequency management, and crew coordination prior to mission execution is critical to successful manned-unmanned teaming operations. When conducting manned-unmanned teaming and required to engage with an armed unmanned aircraft system, the Air Mission Commander is responsible for coordinating airspace, if not coordinated through pre-mission planning, that encompasses the unmanned aircraft system location, missile flight route, and target location. When supporting a ground maneuver unit, the Air Mission Commander coordinates with the Ground Maneuver Commander and Brigade Combat Team, Air Defense, Airspace Management Cell. When assigned an area of operations, the Air Mission Commander coordinates through the CAB Air Defense Airspace Management Cell. The CAB Air Defense Airspace Management Cell must communicate regularly with the Brigade Combat Team Air Defense Airspace Management Cell to coordinate and relay airspace coordination, measures required to maintain situational awareness for the CAB Commander. Airspace coordination measures must enable airspace users to operate effectively and safely, but must also provide the commander flexibility to continue operations throughout the area of operations. A simple airspace control plan is more easily understood and applied by all airspace users and more easily lends itself to immediate airspace coordination measure implementation. Airspace planners must consider all ground and air units involved in an operation and ensure wargaming analyzes contingencies which involve airspace usage, to include operating with degraded communications or command and control systems. Simple, well-understood procedural controls, which do not require positive communications with the command and control node, may provide the most redundant and effective method of airspace coordination. Common airspace coordination measures and fire support coordination measures for Army Aviation are coordinating altitude, coordination level, airspace coordination area, restricted operation zone, standard use Army aircraft flight routes, and all airspace users must coordinate with the appropriate airspace elements when flying or firing through a coordinating altitude or coordination level. The airspace element in the CAB is the Air Defense Airspace Management Cell, located in the Brigade Main Command Post. The airspace element in the Brigade Combat Team is the Air Defense Airspace Management and Brigade Aviation element. The Air Defense Airspace Management Cell has established links within the Theater Air-Ground System through the next higher airspace element and up to the Airspace Control Authority normally located at an established Air Operations Center. The Air Defense Airspace Management Cell integrates information systems with joint networks to provide a joint, integrated, three-dimensional, near real-time air common operational picture. With these systems, the Air Defense Airspace Management Cell coordinates immediate and pre-planned airspace coordination measures as required to support operations. The Air Defense Airspace Management Cell receives airspace requirements from brigade elements and coordinates these airspace coordination measures with the next headquarters airspace element. Pre-planned airspace coordination measures are published on the Airspace Control Order. Immediate airspace coordination measures are requested from subordinate brigade elements via voice or digital communication and coordinated with the appropriate airspace element and depicted on the Common Air Picture when approved. The Air Defense Airspace Management Cell must continuously plan for and monitor the operations of all airspace users that may affect DAB or Brigade Combat Team operations.